And I see it. We are live now. And I don't want
Hey
to mess.
everyone.
All right. I'm glad that we were able to do this. Even
Yes,
though
I had a
we
great
couldn't.
time with you last time.
Yes, I did as well. So I was really looking forward to doing it again. And hopefully we'll have some people showing up here shortly. I did not open my channel because I didn't want to have the audio running through just in case,
Right.
which is fine.
Well, while we're waiting, how is your PhD journey going?
It's going pretty good, actually. So I'm really at my kind of my goal weight, within a few pounds of that, below actually, or above, just depends on what I'm eating. So, which is 155 for me.
Right.
And I really don't want to lose any more than that. So that part's good. I've been here now for a while, and now I still need to gain muscle and lose body fat. So a little bit of each. Uh, so that's kind of what I want to do over the next, 6, 8, 12 months, whatever.
Right.
But that involves exercising.
Maybe.
Yeah,
It
maybe. Well,
depends on the
something.
exercise.
It will involve something, I think.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. We'll talk about that when we get going at some point.
Right.
Now, and you're closing in on the? Are you over 2 years now, Teresa?
I
Since you
am
started?
not. I am
Close though.
wait, today's the 12th, right?
Yeah.
I am
Yes, it is.
exactly 17 months.
Okay, so closing in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Getting close, but not quite.
Okay. Yeah, and so I'm in quite a while, but with huge setback in the middle. So probably I don't know exactly when I first started doing keto, but it's probably closing in on 5 years. Um,
Wow.
but I did that really well for about 18 months. Kind of muddled not so well for a year. Was kind of off the rails for a year, and then so I'm probably pretty close to, I don't know, maybe 12 to 15 months of actually mostly carnivore. So but yeah, so mine was a bit of a roller coaster through the middle part. And
Yeah.
that's the issue with what I heard Dr. Berry say the other night. He called the internet keto, which I called kind of mainstream keto back 4 or 5 years ago, which was counting net carbs and still doing all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And that really, it's fine if you avoid processed crap and you don't get
Right.
sucked back in. But all that processed food's like a gateway drug for me. And so,
Same.
and that's what happened. After a while, I started doing just eat that stuff again. And then I stalled, and then I really just led to, just eating junk more and more frequently, and then being totally off the rails for a while, a year, probably 12 months, something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
have to be an abstainer. I cannot moderate.
yes, that's me too. I am great at abstaining, but not moderation. My wife, now she's really good at moderation. She can do something one day and just, no problem whatsoever, just right back. And I'm not good at that. I will just instantly, well, it's not instant, but it's this slow progression, right? That that leads me off track. So, oh, and that is Todd from the Carnivore Cure. Hello, Todd. Hope you're doing well.
We've got a new carnivore.
Yes. All right.
I'm always excited to see that.
What got me back on the wagon? I'll tell you. So I I had lost about 55 pounds before I kind of stalled, and I stalled at about 200 pounds. And I was just in the beginning, what I was doing was there were still times when I was just eating junk on occasion. I just didn't do it very often. But finally, at that stall, one thing I lost 55 pounds. So it was the lightest I'd been in, a long time. So I felt pretty good about that. When I finally just totally came off, I ended up probably gaining back 35 pounds of that, or maybe a little more. But I knew the only thing that probably saved me from just total failure was that I knew that keto worked. And knowing that, there was, and I felt good doing it, unlike all the other diets in the past where I'd come off and gained all the weight
Right.
back. And so I knew that it worked, and I knew it felt good. And I'll tell you what happened. My wife actually found, I always talked about starting again. My wife found Dr. Berry video, and we watched it. And that particular video, he actually talked about falling into the keto trap, about eating keto products. And that's exactly what I did. We started buying keto bread and keto wraps and all that kind of crap, right? Keto candy bars.
Oh,
And when I watched that video with my wife, I thought, you know what? Now I understand. I know why I failed, right? Why I kind of come
mhm.
unglued. And we just started back immediately. And we really did whole food keto for probably 4 or 5 weeks. But I don't miss any of that stuff. And so we just pretty quickly just transitioned right into, again, I say mostly carnivore. On most days, I do carnivore. There are
Right.
times when we still will have some vegetables and eggs or whatever, but predominantly, you know, real cheese, heavy whipping cream, meat, butter, eggs. That's just what we do. And and that was it. And I was fortunate that we did, because the number of people that I've had comment and spoken to, they've done keto, they've lost 50, 60 pounds and then fallen into that same trap, gained
Yep.
all that weight back. And it is so, it really does something to you emotionally and morally. And it's hard, it's difficult to ever get going again, because, every time you do that in life and with weight, I've done it dozens of times, you just get the feeling that no matter what, at some point the wheels are going to come off. The difference is if you can get into real whole food keto or carnivore, as close to carnivore as you can live, it is different. And eventually you get to where you're really just free from that obsession from food. So, I was fortunate. We've just been really blessed. And my wife was super supportive. She didn't need to lose weight, but she's always done it with me. And,
Right.
and then here I am, right, with a life that wouldn't have existed if I hadn't.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, I don't know. I think back to my plant days, and my life is completely unrecognizable.
Yeah, absolutely. I've talked about this on a couple streams and in some videos that I made, but that's the truth, Teresa. The When I think back to that time where I'd gained back so much weight and I kind of lost a little and kind of muddled around, to today, my life is so different that I never could have imagined. I'd
Right.
hoped I would lose the weight, maybe my health would improve, but it's not just that. It's nearly everything, right?
Yeah.
Outside of just very few things that I've ever experienced in my life, it's absolutely the most life altering, with rare exceptions, right? It's just we're doing a live stream. I would have never done that, and
Me
a
neither.
host of other things as well, right? So it's incredible. And once you get to this point, the thought of ever going back, or it's again not even a consideration. But during the
Yeah.
process, obviously, it's not without struggle for people. So
Right. Yeah, it's definitely Nothing I ever expected, but so glad I have it.
Yes, yeah, that's it. And I think for me, at least, I came in only with the goal of losing weight. And as I got to a certain point, I became much more focused on health and the other things that come along with it. And and now my outlook on life is different. Never that I was ever like, severely depressed or anything like that, but and I was more fortunate than some. I mean, I was certainly way overweight. I was probably close to 275, but I still functioned. I was in, compared to most people, relatively good health. I didn't take a bunch of prescription drugs, but still, I was honestly in terrible health compared to today. And just this far from the edge of just going over, spiraling down into the same kind of health the average person has at my age, which is not
Yeah.
good.
Well, it's funny you mentioned weight loss was your reason. That was actually on the bottom of my list because even though I was severely overweight, I think it was morbidly obese. That was not my reason. I just wanted to feel normal and be able to function during the day with energy and no pain.
Right.
Actually, I just wanted to eat with no pain because every time I ate, it was painful. And
Yes. Yeah.
so, yeah, this was a nice side effect.
Yeah. And seeing, and it's odd that we were almost the opposite. The nice side effect for me was, no more pre-diabetes, no more high blood pressure. Yeah, my allergies are radically better than they ever were before. I mean, and then there's a bunch of smaller, minor things. Well, and I don't take gout medication any longer either. So all of that kind of stuff was like I started discovering it at about the 180-pound mark, and
Right.
now as I've just continued to lose weight, those things have just continued to get better until I don't really have any of them anymore. Um, so those were things that I didn't even really give much thought to in the beginning. Now my wife did because she wanted me to be healthy, but I was just like, yeah, I don't want to be this big anymore, right? And
Yeah.
so those things were they're actually more important than the weight loss, but again, in my mind, that was not the primary focus because that's what happens sometimes. We don't really have we don't have our eye on what's most important sometimes in life, and
Right.
where really it should be about health. But fortunately, eating this way actually provides both. You don't have to have one or the other, and you get
Yeah.
to eat food that you like until you're stuffed, right?
Exactly.
Which is another upside.
Yeah, it's really funny, but in all the other diets that I've tried over the decades, weight loss was always number one. But when I got to that point in the plant diet, I was done. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I had to do something. So I think that maybe if I hadn't felt so bad or that I hadn't deteriorated so far that probably weight loss would have been higher up on the list because I was really heavy and um, the pain was just worse. So I beat it out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think for me, because I was in bad health, but not compared to what it wasn't anything like you, to where I suffered like constant pain and the issues with your GI tract, and so I didn't suffer from all of those kind of things, and and I guess too that it's just over time. Yours was severe enough that you didn't just kind of adapt. And most people, they just kind of get to where you don't feel good, but it's not like it comes on in one day, right? It started 20 years ago, and all of it, it's just kind of built up, and it's just a slow progression. And I remember you mentioning one time you felt like you just thought, well, now I'm at the age, I'm getting older, and I'm just gonna feel like this the rest of my life, just old, decrepit, and broken down. And sadly, that is what people think.
Yeah.
And again, you're a good amount younger than I am, Teresa. Um, People at my age think that it's just the way it's got to be. That you got to be on 4 different medications at least, and you're gonna have all of those issues. You're gonna have aches and pain. It's just part of life. Well, yeah, maybe, but not when you're 50 or 60. It doesn't have to be part of life, right? At
Right.
least not generally. Maybe when you're 95, that's part of life. I don't know that it is, but obviously we get older, and those kind of things happen. But I think it's sad that we just accept that as the norm at 40, 50 years old.
Yeah. Let's see, what do we got here? Question: can you share how you got started with carnivore? Did you calculate macros for protein and fat ratios? Have you ever found yourself under eating? Who's that for?
I think it's for both of us.
Okay, you can go first.
Yeah. So I started to lose weight. That's how I got started. I've never counted. If you weren't here just a little bit ago, I won't go through this whole story, but I started with keto and eventually transitioned into real whole food keto and then carnivore predominantly. No, the only thing I've ever counted, and I don't count them anymore, is carbs. I used to count carbs, net carbs in the beginning, which is not a great plan, and then total carbs. I've never really counted anything else, and now because I do carnivore pretty much on most days, I don't even count carbs. So the amount of carbs that we take in are from maybe heavy whipping cream, or if we have some green peppers and onions and eggs or stuffed mushroom caps, whatever, and I don't even care. It's not enough to get me up probably past 20, certainly not over 25 or so, and I don't do that very often. We try to shoot for about 70-30 fat to protein, which is what you would get in a ribeye or what you would get in an egg, or we buy 70-30 ground beef, and that's just all we do. My wife actually prefers a little more fat than I do, and she feels better when she eats a little more, so she'll put extra butter on stuff and things like that. But um, I've been extremely simple with mine. Just we eat, meat, eggs, bacon, butter, heavy whipping cream, and real cheese, and that's really it. Oh, and yes, do I undereat? Absolutely, at times, and that's because your appetite changes radically and your hunger signals change immensely. No longer do I ever get ravenously hungry ever. And so I often will feel like I should eat, but not be particularly hungry. And so I do try to eat twice a day now because I don't want to lose any more weight. But I don't always. And so I do have to watch that. But I think eventually you'll get to a place to where you just kind of your body just kind of tells you when it wants food, it lets you know. And so I eat when I'm hungry and I eat until I am stuffed. So um, I just roll pretty simple, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of the same practices. What got me into carnivore was the plant diet. I didn't know that it would get me there when I started it. It's supposed to be the most healthiest diet in the world. Nope. Um, the the progression was slow, so I didn't notice it right away. But by the end of it, which was just over a year, I couldn't deny it anymore. It was not only debilitating physically, but also mentally. Yeah, so I just jumped right into carnivore. We're talking, I decided and I did it. Like the very next meal I ate was nothing but meat, and that's all I've done for the last 17 months, with the one occasion where I had an ice cream cone, and I will never do that again. And I think a few months ago, I had a little bit of bread to see what would happen. Won't be doing that again either. So, pretty strict carnivore. That was a necessity. At one point, I cut out a lot of stuff. Chicken was bothering me, bacon was bothering me, butter was bothering me. So, obviously, dairy was too. And so, I was Lion Diet for about 5 months, and it was wonderful. That's when I experienced the most healing. I was on top of the world, still kind of am, but I think when you're in the process of healing and then just one after another things start going away, I don't think you can be happier than that. So, did I ever undereat? Yes, but it was an accident. So when I was Lion Diet, I was OMAD. And so I would eat
Yeah.
usually an entire ribeye. And I would pick off on some burger patties. But at this point, I was having a ground beef aversion. So I really stuck to steak. And I ate until I was full. And I ate if I was hungry. But usually it was only one meal, so I was good. But at some point, I would eat my one meal, and then I started noticing that I was kind of struggling through fasting. And this was new to me, so I didn't understand what was going on until I think I watched one of Steak and Butter Gal's videos, and she was talking about white knuckling it during fasting. And I was like, ooh, what's that? So I listened to her and I was like, I think that's what I'm doing. And so I picked up another meal and started with 2 meals a day. And then it got much better. I was no longer white knuckling it. I was like, okay, I don't have to do OMAD. It's okay. I'm going to be all right. And sure enough, even with 2 meals, I was still dropping fat. I was still feeling great. So I went with that. And I think that it's really important that we understand that just because you eat more doesn't mean you're going to get fat or stop losing weight. Because one of the biggest reasons for stalls, and I find this a lot, is people are restricting food. They think that they have to only eat 1 meal a day. And if they eat more than 1 meal a day and they're not able to do OMAD, they're going to hang on to all their fat. And that's not true. I think I've been high fat the entire 17 months, and I am 2 pounds away from losing 120 pounds. And
Wow.
Betsy has lost 120 pounds. So, women, eat.
Yes.
Please eat.
I was mentioning earlier, my wife actually likes more fat than me, and I eat probably about, I mean, if you do the ratio to calories, it's like 70-30, I think, something like that. She likes more than that. And now she's never been big. So my wife was up to about 135, right? That was like her high weight. And when we were really doing almost every day, when I was still losing weight, she's eating 80% fat probably. She lost 20 pounds, right?
Yep.
So, and so she's not big at all. She's eating fat. No, I did also 1 meal a day for quite some time by force early on. And then I would do 2 meals a day. And I even sometimes did a meal every other day on occasion. But that's probably counterproductive, right? One of the things that happens is your body tells you when it's hungry. And if you give it food, it's happy, right? It knows nothing about calories. But it wants some protein and wants some fat. And when you restrict those nutrients from your body, it slows down, right? So it's actually you restrict the food that you take in, your body actually slows down your metabolism to offset that. Particularly bad if you're still eating carbs, right? It's just that's what happens. So yeah, it's much better to eat, get off the carbs, eat when you're hungry, eat until you're full, and don't eat between those meals. If you're hungry enough to eat a meal, eat a meal. If you're not
Right.
hungry enough to eat a meal, don't eat. right?
Yep.
And if you eat 3 times a day, eat 3 times a day. The problem I had with OMAD was, in fact, I still do it sometimes, but not on purpose now. The issue with me was I've watched so many people that are like, they can sit down and eat like 2 pounds of beef. I just cannot. I
I
mean,
can't either.
I can barely eat like a 12 or 14 ounce ribeye, and I might eat a few slices of hard Parmesan cheese with that, and I am stuffed. I mean, I just cannot eat anymore. And when I get to one meal a day, if I'm doing very much at all, I will still begin to drop weight. And so I got down to about 151, and I really didn't want to get below 150. I want to be about 155, which is about where I am right now. So, but if I don't eat twice a day most of the time, you know, and again, I just eat until I'm stuffed. But
Yep.
it doesn't matter. I mean, so if you're hungry, eat, and if you're not, that's fine. But there's probably not a lot of need to do purposeful, like you were saying, Teresa, one meal a day. I mean, that's okay. I think it's good to do on occasion if you want to do it. I think it's good to fast on occasion if you want to do it. But
Yeah.
long term, just to say, well, I'm just going to suffer through, right? It probably is not necessary and maybe even counterproductive, right?
Yeah, and that's what she was talking about. As far as white knuckling, it means you're hungry, but you're choosing not to eat because of, you do OMAD, you're supposed to fast for the next 23 hours. And a lot of influencers say that that is the fastest way to lose weight or the best way to lose weight. And it's not, because if your body is hungry and you are not giving it what it needs, it's going to hold on to every ounce of fat you have because it's scared it's not going to have, incoming energy from food
Yeah,
sources. So you're actually sabotaging yourself.
yeah.
And then there
It
are other, and I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say there's a number of studies that actually show that fact that when you restrict food intake and your body wants it, it does slow down your metabolism. Your body just slows down to offset, and that includes if you're doing exercise. There was a great study from the Biggest Loser series, and it's exactly what they shown. In fact, many of them still had reduced metabolisms years
Yeah,
after they were off that series.
yeah,
And the difference, and one of the things that also seems kind of odd, but it is different if you fast. And what I mean is, if you go for 3 days, your body actually speeds up your metabolism.
yeah,
But if you're just restricting the amount of food that you intake, your body will slow down and it will stop doing repairs. It'll stop doing all kinds of stuff that you want it to do, and just because it tries to offset the reduction in we say calories, but truly the body, it offsets its nutrients desire, right? It wants some nutrients, you don't give it any, it's just going to slow down to offset that restriction as much as possible.
exactly. And B. Rose makes a very excellent point. Don't women need more fat for hormone health? I
Mhm.
agree with that 100% because the week right before my cycle, my 1 to 2 meals turns into 3 and sometimes 4 meals. And it wants that fat, and I crave
Yep.
butter. So you can listen to your body and see where there's patterns, especially if you keep a journal. I recommend everybody keep a journal. That's how I learned to listen to my body in the beginning. I couldn't hear the signals, but I saw them when I wrote it down. You could see a cycle going, and it's like, oh, okay, I understand now. And then you start learning to pay attention to your body. And there are, I hate to say it, some influencers in the carnivore world, keto carnivore world, that will tell people if you have weight to lose, you need to limit the amount of fat you ingest. And to that I call BS, like 100%. That is crazy. Fat does not make you fat. And
No.
there's no such thing as calories in, calories out. And you could explain it until you're blue in the face, and I will not hear you simply because I have believed that all my life and it never worked, ever. But suddenly, when I stop counting everything, eat what I want to the point where I am no longer starving, and then all of this happens, yeah, there's a reason why I'm not going to listen, because it's just not true. But I don't. It makes my blood boil when they say, "Don't eat fat; you're going to get fat." That's not true. I eat butter by the spoonful, and like I said, right before my period, it's many, many spoonfuls all throughout the day. And I am still losing fat.
Yeah, well, and that's you mentioned you're a couple pounds off. I've lost probably currently probably right at 120. And
Huzzah.
that's all been eating again about 70% of my intake is fat, right?
Yep.
And we use real butter plus and I still eat dairy doesn't bother me, at least not enough for me to give it up completely. So it probably does affect my sinuses slightly actually, uh, but that's adding that in, right? I drink heavy whipping cream in my coffee. I eat real cheese a lot of times, not a huge amount, but with my meals often. And no, the notion that eating fat is an issue, and also we only have the ability to actually break down so much fat. Your
Right.
body needs the bile from your gallbladder to do it, or if you don't have one, it uses the liver. But once you use up the amount of bile your body's produced in the day, you're not breaking down hardly any of that fat. So
Right.
fat doesn't make you fat. What makes
No.
you fat is eating a bunch of fat along with carbohydrates, and that absolutely will make you fat. And the other thing about the whole part, you were talking about fat. My wife likes more fat. We do the same thing with salt. And what we've found with time is the fact that there'll be times when we put the same amount of salt. We heavily salt our food, so we'll put the same amount of salt on stuff. But you know what? There are days when my wife will say, "No, this is a little salty," or she'll say, "Do you want some more salt?" Because she's putting some on hers, and it's like, "No, I'm good." Your body really does tell you what
Yep.
it wants. There
Yep.
is no animal on the planet that says, how much fat did I eat today? Right? No,
Right.
they just eat what they eat and they eat until they're hungry and then they go take a nap. Right? And that's what they do. And, we have salt out for the goats. We put mineral out for the goats. Guess what? They go get it when they want it. Right?
Yep.
And eventually, I think that if we pay attention, like you said, Teresa, that our bodies will tell us oftentimes what. Now we may not know what it's telling us until we figure it out, because we don't, we've gone so long without doing it, we don't have a clue. But eventually, if you need some more fat in your diet, you start trying it, you'll figure out, oh yeah, I feel better now. Or you need more salt, and you start taking it, you're going to realize, oh yeah, I actually that works. Next time I feel like that, I'm going to go back to the salt lick, right? I don't have a salt lick, but you know what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah. And that's another reason why I wrote everything down. It's because I couldn't feel the signals, but I could see the cycle on paper. And it's be
Mhm.
like, okay, right around this time, I want more fat, or I start eating more. And because I mean, women, honestly, we're not going to remember what we did 30 days ago. We're not
Right.
going to remember exactly what we ate. But if you write it down, then you can see a pattern. And I read a book once that was talking about, oh, during different parts of your cycles, you need to add in carbs. I have never needed that ever. All I know is that I was hungrier. And if I ate an extra meal or two, I was perfect. And I didn't need to add an orange or an apple or a sweet potato. Although, with my experience with oxalates, I'd probably never eat a sweet potato ever. So, no more oxalates. But yeah, I mean, everybody's got an idea of what is right and what is best. And honestly, I think we just need to learn to listen to ourselves, because our body is going to tell us what's best. And if I wake up 3 months from now and my body says, you know what? You need an orange. I'm going to question it for a second, but
Yeah. Are you
maybe
sure?
I'll
You sure I
listen.
need an orange?
Right.
No, and that's the great thing is that we're predominantly alike, but we are all slightly different.
Yeah.
Predominantly eating carnivore, whole food, keto, wherever you kind of fall on that is what predominantly we need to do as humans. But we are all slightly different. Just like you said, you might eat more fat. I might want more salt. I might need more salt. So there isn't a. I think the broad picture is absolutely this is the proper way to eat. Where you fall in that spectrum is something that you need to learn, and that is one thing I don't like. It's there is no cookie cutter thing about you need to eat 66% fat, 33% protein. Okay, some people, but not everyone, and that's one of the things which I just always try to tell people. You do need to kind of find your place, um,
Yeah.
and sometimes where we would be our best health wise is not where we want to live, which
Right.
is like why I still probably drink coffee and put heavy whipping cream in it because I like it. And does that affect me somewhat? Be it probably, maybe, I don't know. I haven't given it up long enough to find out, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay where I'm at. But that's it. Everybody's got to kind of find their place, and it takes a little bit of time and a little bit of effort to do that. But it's worth it if you can get there.
Exactly. And, before what you're talking about salt, and this happened to me around, I think it was month 4. I started having really bad energy dips. And I didn't know it at the time, but my salt requirements were not being met. And the only reason why I had felt good up until that point was because I had minerals stored in my bones,
Yeah.
which I did not know about until I read the Salt Fix. Um, so I had depleted that, and it took about 4 months to do it. And once I upped the salt, I I haven't had an energy issue since. And it used to be really big for me, especially a few days before my cycle started. I would sleep for hours, and salt was the answer. And yeah, your salt needs will change every single day. They can change every single hour because you might be warmer. If your body temperature rises, you're going to need more salt. And that's even if you don't sweat. So there's all these variables that will determine how much salt your body needs, to include caffeine, because when you ingest caffeine, the first things to dump are sodium and magnesium. So you need to keep up with those two. If you drink coffee, hopefully nobody's drinking soda. Um, or
And
if
by
you're
the
given
way,
that.
I was just going to say, and that's why I knew we were going to talk about this, and I wanted to do it because that is an issue that I know I probably do not get enough. We drink before we got started. I said I wanted coffee. I didn't have any, but we've made 2 pots today. It's all gone, right? So it's just me and my wife. We don't sell it, um, so I'm probably at a pot a day, which is a pretty good amount of caffeine. And there are times when I know I feel a little run down, and I really think it is because I'm not replacing that salt, potassium, magnesium that I need.
Yeah, once I upped, like, I was never tracking my salt, but one thing did click for me when I was reading his book is that the energy slumps started coming maybe a month after I started OMAD. And then I realized I was only salting that one meal for the whole day. And I was like, that's what's different, because when I started carnivore, it was like 3 to 4 meals, and then 3 meals, and then 2 meals, and then 1. So shortly after that is when my issues started, and I was only salting 1 time a day and fasting all of that time with low salt. And it didn't click until I read that book. And then once I increased, and this is how I increased, I know it's probably weird for some people, but I make salt pills. I can put them in my purse. So if I don't have a chance to get to some electrolytes, or I forgot them at home or whatever, I always have salt. They're in a little bag in my purse, and I can pop them anytime. But that's how I got my salt in, because doing OMAD, I just don't like pouring salt in my mouth. I don't like it. So put it in the capsule, don't have to taste it, whatever, and I'm good.
Yeah.
And it usually works within 10 minutes if I'm feeling slumped, but I don't feel that anymore. I consume a lot of salt, like a lot.
Now, do you also add some potassium and magnesium to your salt pills, or are you just doing salt?
No, I'm just doing the salt. I get the rest of them from the Keto Chow Daily Minerals and the electrolyte powder. I use Redmond Relight and Keto K1000.
Okay.
And I mix the Relight with the K1000 because the K1000 has 1,000 milligrams of potassium, whereas the Relight has 1,000 milligrams of sodium. So it's a nice balance. Just throw them both in there and sip that during the day. And then if I go outside a lot, or if I'm doing work with the chickens, and either I'm like, we just got over summer, so I was popping a lot of salt capsules when I came back in. So yeah, if I feel a little slumpy, then I'll pop some extra salt in addition to what I'm drinking.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something that probably I should do. I'm just so bad at keeping on top of those kind of things. Like, I eat because I get hungry,
Right.
but I feel like at times I probably need some more electrolytes. But it's not like, it's not something that's immediate for me. Oh yeah, I got to go do it. And if I was mentioning earlier, if I forget to put iodine drops in my coffee, it's you don't notice that you forgot until my wife says, "Did you do this today?" And it's like, 6 o'clock at night. No, I didn't. Right, I forgot. So, but I need to find a way to be better about that, I guess. Right.
You're
Um,
not drinking plain water, are you?
I am right now, actually, carbonated, but
Stop that.
not that much. I get most of my fluids from coffee with heavy whipping cream.
That's not
Um,
any better.
well, I mean, I have iodine drops in it on occasion.
Okay, so
No,
okay, check this
it's
out.
not ideal. It's not ideal. We make
All
our own
right.
electrolyte milk mix, which is really
So
good
okay, but hear me out.
if I put it in water. No, go
All
ahead.
right.
I'm
So you
listening.
have an electrolyte level in your body right now, right? If for some reason you were to slightly overdose on one of your electrolytes, say potassium, and you started getting a racing heart, do you know how to fix it? You drink
I,
plain water,
oh yeah, okay.
because that will dilute your levels in your body. So, say you spent $35 on a container of Relight, right? And you mix yourself up a nice little container of electrolytes, and you drink that and you're all good. And then when that's empty, you go and you fill up that canteen again with plain water and you start drinking that. Well, you are diluting everything you drank in the canteen before that had all your electrolytes. So
Right.
you're essentially peeing out all the money you just drank before.
Right.
It's insanity. Stop that.
And I pay for carbonation on top of that.
And you pay for carbon. Okay, so crazy talk now.
Let me get a drink. Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that at all. In fact,
Okay.
obviously, when you whatever fluid that you take in, whether it's it all intermixes, right? So yes, you drink a bunch of fluids. Now I don't drink lots of water,
Right.
but yes, I do drink plain water and I do drink coffee, and that's really the only two things that I drink. I drink water with electrolyte mixes on occasion. So
Like the
yeah,
best thing to do for your coffee, because a whole scoop of electrolytes, or even your own mixture that you make, a scoop of that would be way too much for coffee.
yeah,
That is the perfect time to do a small squirt of Keto Chow Daily Minerals. That's perfect for that. Nothing big, because if you add too much, it's just gonna taste like crap. So,
and we actually have a little salt in our coffee because I
oh,
salt the
good.
coffee to make it,
Yeah,
but
that's good too.
not a lot.
Right. But
So
yeah, I mean, if your canteen of plain water is pretty significant, like 32 ounces, yeah, you might be wasting a little bit of money.
yeah, yeah. And mostly it's how are you going to feel, right? And that's the thing where
Right.
I don't think I'm currently getting enough. So if I'm not getting enough, I certainly need to add that in whatever I'm drinking or however I'm taking it, right?
Yeah.
So
And
don't
so
feel
definitely N equals 1, that amount of salt, up it up, and really pay attention to how different you feel if you have more energy. But you know what? I guarantee you, if you stop with the plain water after the electrolytes and you just, you have a little bit of your recipe and you add it to your water, that might be enough to, increase your energy, and you
yeah,
might not have to add more.
yes. Okay, I want to ask you about something. I'm looking at the clock here. I
Okay.
want to ask you about working out. I mentioned this earlier.
Okay.
So I know, and actually, and I did know this before, but you mentioned it again. Neither one of us did any significant. In fact, I did virtually no workout during my entire weight loss, and you didn't really do any during that time either, right? Through that period of time.
I didn't even go on casual walks.
Yeah, and me either. I don't casual. Like I know people that they say I love going for a long walk, and it's like okay, I don't know why, but anyway, but you started working out,
I
and
did for a
eh,
brief period, for a very
okay,
brief period.
and are you doing any right now? Or I mean, are you like even a couple days a week doing anything?
Yes, but it looks completely different from when I first started working out.
Yeah, because you did CrossFit or some such thing, right? Did you do something
Yeah,
like
I
that?
did it for like
Okay.
2 months or two and a
Okay.
half months.
Yes. So now we haven't we haven't talked about this yet, but we will. I actually am also doing something just radically different than anything people would consider to be exercise. And I don't know how different it will be from kind of what you're tweaking for, but I from a few different people, and one of them was Professor Barquet, whose recommendation to me was the amount of cardio that you need to do is this amount, none, right? Like don't do any. You either walk or you sprint, you don't run, and you
Right,
either go and you lift heavy stuff as heavy as you can for 6, 7, 8 reps, and you're done, right? And then you do your next
right,
exercise. You take a full day off, so you have 42 hour or 48 hours between, and then you repeat, right? As
yep,
often as you like to do it. Um, And so basically that's my plan, and I have done that a little bit in the last month and a half. My problem is, which I mentioned earlier, I just hate it like poison, right?
Yeah.
So even though my workouts can be done in like 20 minutes, right, or I can go and do some sprints, and that takes me like 5 or 6 minutes. It doesn't take very long whatsoever.
Right.
Uh, my issue is doing it. So, did you like to exercise? Do you have that issue? What have you done? Or do you just love it? Like, oh, I can't wait to go exercise.
No, I'm not one of those people. In fact, I loathe cardio. I think it
Yes.
is the most foul and disgusting activity that I could ever do. So I do enjoy strength training, but I will not do a single minute of cardio, with the exception of sprinting. I do like sprinting because I feel invigorated after that. And I know when you're thinking about it, it's like, oh God, I got to do that again. But you feel really good
Yeah.
afterwards. So
I like
it's,
I like it after I like doing it pretty well, and I feel good after I've done it. I just it's just going out the door to
yeah.
actually do it is the problem, right? That's the problem.
Yeah, you've got to be, when it comes to that, you've got to be impulsive, and then just like as soon as it gets into your head, stand up. Stand up and go and do the thing and get it over with. It's um yeah, just do that, because motivation is not going to come at first. It will come later, but until then, you got to make a decision, and instead of just sitting there going, no, just get up, stand up exactly where you are and say, I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to get it over with. It's going to be done.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to weight training, I'm a little more excited about that because I don't know, I just enjoy it. I'm not like crazy excited. Just be like, oh, okay, I got to go do a workout. But there was a point after I started working out that it got to be a grueling activity for me that I really wasn't motivated to do anymore because I was working out too much. So I only did CrossFit 2 days a week, but I did do weight training 4 days a week, sometimes five, depending on um, what muscle groups I wanted to work out. Because I know you can do your abs more than once a week or whatever. And I was burning myself out, and I was overtraining. So I was
Yeah.
actually hindering a lot of my muscle growth and keeping my cortisol level up. And it stalled my weight loss for a while. Plus I was exhausted. So my appetite was increasing, and I was just at a halt. And when I went through the coaching certification, it says, well, this is why. I was like, okay, you have my attention. That makes a lot of sense. I'm going to try it this way. So now I only work out, no CrossFit, 2 times a week. And I sprint once every 7 to 10 days. And that's it.
Okay. So not even when I am consistent, I'm doing 3 days a week. But now my workouts are very limited. So I was doing like one every other day, like a full body split, right? But I don't even do that now. I am
Right?
doing just a handful of exercises, and then sprinting when I'm doing it. And by the way, even the limited amount, it is if you've gone from doing nothing to doing something, if you're doing something that's good, you actually like I seen pretty significant results, like in the amount of push-ups I could do, for example, or how I feel afterwards. The first day I went out and sprinted, like my thighs hurt for 3 days. I mean,
Yeah.
bad. right? They hurt bad for 3 days.
It's
Now
bad. Yeah.
I haven't sprinted for a week or maybe 10 days. I can go sprint and my legs won't be sore. I mean,
Yeah.
your body really adapts to that pretty quickly, and I can do
Yeah.
twice as many push-ups as I could, 2 months ago. And again, I'm not working out very often in reality. Sometimes once a week. But
Right.
yeah, I wanted to do 3 times a week, but I haven't been. So, but yeah, even once a week, twice a week, any of those things, and for sure, much more than that is probably counterproductive. I mean, unless
Yeah.
you're just some kind of athlete, or I mean, but I don't really not doing it to be, to really build a bunch of muscle. I want to gain muscle and improve body composition, but the way that you would just want to look as, a good, healthy, strong individual, right? Not,
Right. Like this comment right here from JD Morgan for each muscle group. And this is what I want to touch on real quick. So let's say Monday I did my pushing muscles, right? So my chest and my triceps or biceps or whatever they were. So I did that on Monday. And then on Tuesday, I was sore. So there's the inflammation and there's the higher cortisol levels, right? And that's where it's going to stay. Then on Tuesday, the day where my cortisol is still up here, I do my pull muscles, which cortisol goes up again. By Wednesday, I'm now inflamed in even more muscles, so more inflammation. And then on Wednesday, I do the same thing, like I'll do abs, and then Thursday, leg day. So the inflammation from the healing muscles never ever goes down, and the cortisol stays up too.
right.
So there's your weight gain. And cortisol also inhibits muscle growth. So if on Monday I decide I'm going to do squats, that's my leg day. So I do maybe 3 different types of squats and I work out my legs till failure. And then I don't work out for the rest of the time that my legs are healing. And so my cortisol steadily, as my legs heal, go down and down and down. And then my body can focus strictly on healing those leg and butt muscles that I just worked out to death. And that's all it's focused on.
Right.
You will build more muscle. Your cortisol won't be constantly elevated. Not only that, you're not going to burn out because, I mean, going to the gym at first is exciting. It's fun. I'm going to build some muscle and I'm going to get strong. And, that quickly wears down. But if I were to do my squats on Monday and then on Thursday, I have absolutely no soreness, I decide I'm going to do push-ups and work out my chest and arms, then not only do I have the energy to do that, but I also have the motivation because I'm not still sore or fatigued from the workout the prior day. And I think it's better. And that's what I'm doing now. And I'm not stalling. So I think it's working. I think it's working out pretty good. And I think Betsy has a question for you. There you go.
Yeah. So really, the things that I enjoy doing have nothing to do with physical exercise. Um, so
I'm with
so
you.
I'll tell you what I have been trying to do, which basically I think it's called 5-minute movements. Really, what I've been trying to do is this, and that is to say, I'm going to do this, even if I do nothing else, right? So, and it usually will help if I will implement this, which basically is I'm gonna put on some shorts, my socks, my tennis shoes. I'm gonna tie them. I'm gonna walk out the door, and if I turn around and walk back in, then okay, whatever, right? But I'm actually gonna walk out, right? If I will put on my shoes and walk out the door, I will always do with my sprints, right? So it's like I try to focus on not thinking about doing the push-ups or doing sit-ups or doing some curls with resistance band. I just try to think about, you know, just do this part. And if you do that part, okay, you don't have to do anything else if you don't want to. Do that part. Put on your shoes, walk outside. You know, you
Right.
can walk out and say, it looks nice out here, and then walk back in, get some more coffee. But if I just get past, because if I just get past the Teresa mentioned this earlier, if you just get past the beginning, right? Usually you'll go ahead and do it. It's just like it's just the initial part. So I try to break down that initial part into this little bitty section that just says do this, right? Just do this. Just 5 minutes, right? And that's it. And actually, I've tried to do that in other areas of my life, which actually does help. It's like just, you know, if you want to read a book, it's just like, 5 minutes. Read a page. Doesn't even have to be 5 minutes. It's like just read a page every day. And usually you'll start and you'll read 4 or 5 or 8 pages, right? And you won't stop. And so it's like, do a push up. Just do one.
All
And
right.
then, because if I get down to do one, I'm not going to stop, right? It's not like, okay, I'm going to do all of them that I need to do. But I've read about habit building, and that does work in areas if you find something. People have told me, like, what do you like? What do you love to do? Right? Well, drink coffee, and, I mean, there is things I like to do. But some of that stuff is just it's not all kind of exercise kind of based, right? So I like to learn stuff. I like to read stuff. I'm not gaining I'm not losing any visceral fat by flipping pages or lifting my cup. So, but I do much more than I used to when I was super heavy. So it's still an improvement, and even working out super sporadically is better than none, right? So I'm working toward it. Work in progress.
Yeah, and that's all you can do. I mean, it's better if you do a little bit than nothing at all.
That's
So I'm
exactly
for
right.
that.
Yeah.
And exercise doesn't have to be some kind of structured activity that you do in the coaching course. It recommended play. So that could be frisbee, just any kind of play that keeps you active. Basketball,
Yeah.
just play something. And
Yeah. I'm even much more aware of things like tonight. My wife had stopped by she went into town. She picked up 2 bags of feed, some scratch grain and some sweet feed. And so where we put those, it's 30, 40 yards from where she parks. So there's 2 bags in there. Now I could have, and I would have in the past, backed the car up and carried them out. Right. But
right.
today I just went to the car, got a bag, walked it up, put it up, come back, got the other bag, walked up, put it up. And so, and I did that consciously, right? Like I thought, okay, well, at least I'm going to carry these 50-pound bags 35 yards and up 3 steps and put them inside the little shed, as opposed to backing the car up. And I do other things like that too. Like we purposely park a little farther, like I've seen people sit for 5 minutes waiting for the parking space that they
Right.
want. And literally one
Crazy.
car down, there is another space. It's 12
Yep.
feet, right? It's 12 feet away. You're
Yep.
10 minutes in the car. You could fall that far, right? So, I mean, so we purposely park a little ways away, and so we do that kind of stuff. So I am much more aware of it and than I used to be, and I don't drive around looking for super close parking space and things
I
like that.
don't either.
So all of that stuff is certainly an improvement from where I was again. But I just want to I do want to lose a little bit of visceral fat. I want to lose about 10 pounds of fat and gain about 10 pounds of muscle. So
Sprinting.
that's my
Sprinting
goal.
is supposed to do the visceral
Yes,
fat thing, I think.
sprinting.
Well, you saw the interview with Dr. Berry, right? That he did with
Dr. Omar,
yeah.
Sean. Yes, yeah. I'd actually seen him somewhere else, and then I also seen him on Dr. Barry's channel, and I've watched a couple of his videos about visceral fat, and yeah, and I can't get an MRI because that's just not in my budget, but I did get a DEXA scan, and I had 2.24 pounds, which actually was not, you know, I mean, for the average person, it's probably awesome, but they want you to be under a pound, right? So, um,
Yeah.
but so yeah, so not bad, but not, not optimal, certainly, right? So, yes, thank you, Jennifer.
It is a good strategy. I think we need to not only listen to ourselves when it comes to food, but also movement. If you don't feel like doing something, don't do it. And I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I'm just not a 10,000 steps a day kind of person. It's not going to happen. I'm not saying that I'm completely sedentary and I just sit all day. I do get up. I have chickens, I have dogs and cats, I have grown children, and while they're not as needy as they were when they were little, I'm still getting up for them
yeah.
sometimes. But yeah, I'm not forcing 10,000 steps. It's not going to
No,
happen.
I hit those numbers several times a year, and that's just because out of necessity.
Yes.
So when I have to be doing something that I wouldn't normally be doing, we pulled a bunch of fence earlier this year, and yeah, I probably had 20,000 steps a couple days, but I did that 3 or 4 times, and then I won't do it again for 8 months, hopefully, right? So
Right.
I was reading that. 5 second rule. That's not like if you drop your food on the floor, right? That's not the 5 second rule you're talking about. That's the 3 second rule. Okay.
3, 5, it all depends.
I
And
I
some people
try
have to
not.
blow on it.
Yeah, I try not to drop my food on the floor and eat it afterwards, as a general rule. But okay, I will check that out. It clearly that's not the rule Jennifer's talking about, but I will check
Right.
it. But I will check it out.
All righty. Well, we're at an hour and 7. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about, or are you pretty good for today?
Yeah, well, let's. I don't know if there's anybody else that has any questions.
Yeah.
Character limit to the live comments. Yeah, there is some kind of character limit to live comments.
I think
I
it's like
don't.
50 or something. I don't
Is
know.
it? Yeah, and does that? Yeah, I don't know either. I It's just what it is. Oh,
Yeah.
you're more than welcome. Yeah. So any yeah here, this might be a question, or it may not be. No, it's okay. It's not a
Well,
question.
in either case, we got to do this again because I think
Yeah,
it's.
actually, I would love to, and I think that was my daughter texting me a video of the baby. They both of my daughters, two of my daughters were on, and my wife, I believe, earlier. So normally they come to my live streams without payment. Um, Sometimes I don't
Funny.
have to give them money anymore. They just show up of their own accord, which I greatly appreciate. But I'm not sure they're still with us, but it's okay. I know I really would love to do it. Oh, look, there it is. Yes, yes, Fairlight. I got your video. I thought you were asking me a question by text, but she was not. Anyway, we will. I'd love to do it again whenever you're able to, Teresa. And I can do this time, or I can do later. I can do sooner, or whenever. And there was actually a few other things I think you'd mentioned in your email, and there are some other things I'd like to talk about in the future as well. So we could certainly
Oh
do that.
yeah, my cheese bin.
Oh,
I forgot about that, but we'll save that for next time.
yes, actually, and we will save it for next time. But that actually does affect your sinuses some, right? When you
Oh,
eat.
yeah. More than that,
See,
my sinuses, my joints, my brain,
okay,
it was
okay.
bad.
Yeah, I don't have joints or brain. Yeah, I don't have joints or brain. I have joints and a brain, but they're not affected by dairy as far as I know. But I do get some some more drainage and a little bit of phlegm, I think, if I eat a lot. Um,
Yeah, like notice I didn't clear my throat at all tonight, but the other day it was just every couple of minutes I had to
yeah,
clear my throat. It was horrible.
yeah. I know. I think probably dairy and the heavy whipping cream maybe might be. When I did 14 days of beef only, and I had virtually nothing, right?
Yeah, it's
And
lovely.
yeah, it was lovely, except I didn't have heavy whipping cream or any cheese, and that's what I was saying earlier. We Everybody's got to kind of find where they can live, right? Like what can you deal with? I would group. I mean, I feel my very best probably if I would be just totally everyday carnivore, no dairy at all, and probably cut back to a cup or two of coffee, maybe none, no dairy. But it doesn't make me feel so bad that I want to give it up, right? So I
Right.
kind of do mostly. I do mostly, you know, carnivore and a day or two we did not. So yeah, I made the sauce again. It depends on what the sauce is, but yeah, bring some. Your mom will eat it no matter what. She loves it.
That's
All right.
funny.
Well, I greatly appreciate it, Teresa. Yes, and
Me too.
absolutely,
Yes, thank you.
we will do it sometime soon. And in fact, maybe we'll talk some too about the nutrition and coaching next time. That'd be good.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be really good to do that because it's something I'm really interested in, and I know that you are as well. And it'd be nice we do something like that. So, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I guess no other questions. I'm not seeing any come across except do I want barbecued ribs on Saturday um, with homemade sauce, which will be good.
Right?
Uh, so, um, no other questions. I guess that we'll wrap it up.
And thank you guys so much for coming. It was a good time.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thanks for the advice. I'm going to do a search and on the 5 second rule, and also look more into habit stacking, which also I know is a good thing. So,
Yeah.
all right.
All right. Bye
All right.
guys.
Thanks, guys.